Gary.
Hi, everybody. I'll be reasonably quick. I just wanted to give you an update on the last couple of weeks, what I've been doing out around Bromley and around the plant, and probably some clarification. So I've been probably spending about 25 hours a week on this at the moment. By the end of April, I'll be full-time out here, and my contract will be for 2.5 years. So that is to go to the end of the plant being built. I think it's important that we spend time consistently and work with this community and the wider East community. So, yeah, I just, like anything, I've got to disengage from some work to engage fully here. A little bit of an update. We've achieved a fair bit around Bromley in the last couple of weeks in terms of little things that needed to be done. Myself and the local team who have been awesome. So the Bromley Centre, we've got some new heat pumps going in there. We've upgraded some hall heaters. We've fixed the CCTV problems, and the trees, thank you to Councillor Johansson, are being pruned and the lines are being cleared. So it might sound minor, but from the local community, those are all things that they wanted done. And those trees were concerning for people. I had been doing drop-ins at the community centre. To be honest with you, it hasn't really worked. So in the newsletter today, it will have said that I won't be doing any more. And I'm trying to find the best way to be accessible. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to base myself at the plant. I've got some office space here with the project team, which is awesome. And basically, I've my phone number's there, my email's there. I'll be going to as many meetings in the East as I can, but just try and keep meeting people, offering the opportunity to go and see them at home or see them wherever's best. Yeah, so just trying to work out that accessible, but it's not always easy. I met with the contractors and the project managers the other day on site and had a look around. And I think one of the things I'd really like to start to do as the project builds along is get some more photos out, get some regular updates on what's going on. We talked about, the team offered at some point to maybe able to start bringing some of the community in and show them what's going on. That takes a bit of a health and safety nightmare, but that's okay. But they've offered, and so we'll see how we work that out. Even to the point where we talked the other day and they talked about the large pipes that will be coming in for the plant, where we thought we should store them. That would be the least, I guess, disturbance to the local neighbours against that back fence. So the team out there is really trying to work out how they can deliver this project with the least uproar, which is great. As I say, I've been trying to meet as many people as I can. The food bank at the Bromley Centre on a Thursday has been good to catch up with people. I've talked to some people on that back fence around the shaking, which has started because they're driving piles and stuff. And we got a timeline. It's about a 4-month timeline for that at the moment. But the couple of families I went to who are concerned of understand the timeline. There isn't much we can do. The vibration, for you to understand, isn't a thump. It's just a constant sort of, if that's fair. At times there'll be a thump, but at the moment we haven't got there. So, but I'm really keen to hear from people, especially in the area, if they're concerned. I'm quite happy to go and have a conversation or bring one of the contractors with me so people can understand. I'm meeting with the Chief Medical Officer of Health this week, and once with her alone, and then once with ECAN on Friday, just to try and get as much updated health information as we can get, and then start to look at, I've been requested to have a look at a psychosocial recovery plan, and I've drafted one, but without information, it's a bit hard to do it properly. And then we need to think about what that means, how far that goes, what we're actually talking about. My conversation with a lot of the community, their drive is to have this plant fixed. and the need for support, I think, is at a level, if I use the word bespoke, I don't mean that it's not there, because it is, but feedback from community seems to be, don't look at something that blankets everything. Look for the areas that are the major issues. And because I'm out here, and because part of that report around after the fire was around the east, I'm going to stay involved in the Wetlands Grove campsite where the homeless community is, just because I've been in that in my other job, but it seems natural to hang on to that here. And yeah, there's still a little bit of resistance from people to have a conversation. Most people have been fantastic, and I've had lots of good conversations, but we got to remember that this is a trust building exercise, and to do that, we meet people, we listen to people, and we just keep the conversation going. So that's where I am. The team's been great, supporting me while I've been out here, and I think placement at the ponds is the right place for me to be able to get the most up-to-date information and share it out as quickly as I can. So yeah, that's sort of where I am.
Right, thank you. Celeste, and then Kelly, and then Yanni, and then Greg.
I'll take notes.
And then me.
Just a question, you mentioned Wetlands Grove. Did you say you will be a liaison for that community?
I'm just staying in the project. So you've talked to Andrew Rutledge, and we've got some stuff going on, but I just thought it was because I was involved at the start. I'll just stay involved.
That would be helpful. It would be good to, I'm sure we'll get updates around what the planning is around before the report's developed.
Absolutely.
That'd be good, thank you.
Yep.
Right. Kelly?
Gary, I wonder if you could give us a bit of insight into the depth of understanding that the local community, the individuals have of the process that from fire to insurance claim to planning, design and build. Do people understand in the community how difficult that process is?
It's one of the ironies. We think we communicate very well. I think there's a lot of people that don't know that we've started a rebuild. And so we've got to look at why that is, there different ways we need to get the message out. I think the fire and what's happened up until now, don't think people, well, they're interested in it, but they're more interested in from now until it being completed. And I think that's where the focus is.
But they do realise that we're working like 24/7 basically.
Yes. Well, I hope so. Again, it comes down to the trust thing. I can say I'm the Pope, but I'm not the Pope. But someone who doesn't know I'm not the Pope, I could say I'm what I am. But yeah, I think
just in terms of actually communicating, you've tried clinics and things like that.
Yep.
Have you thought of street meetings, like putting up a sign?
Yep.
There's local MPs very effective in our area of putting up a sign. I'll be here on Saturday at 4 p.m. and going along and assessing whether that's would work.
Yep. So I think that's part of my planning. To do a street meeting, you want the right people with the right information at the right time. And so that's going to take me a wee while to I guess build a relationship with the project team and everything. But that's definitely some of the plan.
But it would be a useful contact point, because then you can get back to them and say, what are your questions? And they want to tell you.
No.
Thanks.
That's right. Yanni?
Yeah, thanks. I mean, it's really a question maybe not for Gary, but for the Kiwiwood governance team. But when is the next local residents liaison meeting around the construction scheduled for? Do we have a time frame?
Do we need one?
Okay. So, I mean, the point of those groups was to have a regular engagement with the local residents around the impact of the construction. So I just wanted to know, Gary, if you had any concerns raised with you with the construction happening out very early in the morning, not during the scheduled hours that on the work notice.
No, I haven't had that raised with me yet. No.
Cool. Was there is there a list of vulnerable people that we're putting together, or I'm just trying to understand what's happened with the community survey data?
Yeah.
And how we've identified people, particularly vulnerable people, and then looked at what bespoke support we can give to them.
Yeah, so the survey data, if I'm honest, done on a Tuesday, we didn't catch as many people at home as we wanted to. I think it's something that I'm going to have to build as I go along. One of the things we talked about in the newsletter was saying to people, and you've got to be careful because I might consider myself vulnerable, or my neighbour might consider myself vulnerable, but I mightn't, type thing. I think as I go along, I will collect that. It's something I ask everybody. Do you know your neighbour? Would you consider that they are, at a higher risk than anyone else? So we're building it, but we don't have a lot at the moment.
Thanks. Have you talked to Kieran about his report that he's put in?
Yep.
And is the health response? I'm just trying to understand.
Yep.
Today. I really appreciate the work that you're doing,
Mm-hmm.
but from a health response to the community, I think, and I would probably concur, it just feels like by the time we get any health response, the immediate health issues are in the past, and then the need isn't as necessary as it was when it was really urgent and people were suffering and getting nauseous. So I'm just trying to understand if there's any way that there can be like a time frame around that health response going forward, but also an understanding of what would trigger an increase in urgency when things get bad.
Sure. So that really is the conversation this week, is to understand, I guess, why I've struggled to get that information. Hopefully by this Friday, and I'm careful with timelines, but hopefully by this Friday, I will have a commitment of health information, when it will be regularly updated, and what we can offer. So, I mean, it sounds a bit ironic that it's all happening this week, but it's taken this week to get there.
One of the concerns that has been raised with me is that the health guidance level that we have in terms of our data isn't sufficient to provide reassurance that the levels people are being exposed to on a continuous basis are safe.
Yeah.
Is that specific point going to be addressed with either our equality experts or the health experts around looking at what happens around the world and what level of exposure and how it's measured?
So that's a 0.3.
0.3.
Yeah. So I will bring it up with both of them, and I will ask the question. I know Kieran's report has a very high spike in it, but a very high spike that didn't last very long in terms of less than a minute. So, yeah, I'm not sure. But I've spoken to Kieran around his data, and I think it's a survey that he undertook, and I will be taking that information with me on Thursday and Friday as well.
I mean, I've got lots of questions, but I'm mindful of time, so I'll just ask one more and maybe send these through by email. But in terms of just the communication about what's happening, I know that we did get some different graphs, but the graphs are quite hard to read, very faint sort of blue dots. We had graphs that are quite easy to read, but they don't appear to be being updated anymore. The last one's on the March 15th. But just in terms of how we distribute data, how we communicate, do you think there's a need to get feedback from residents around what's the most effective way? Because I know when you door knocked and when we saw you at the caravan, one of the residents said to me that a personalised letter would be much better than flyers that people just weren't aware of when it comes through the letterbox. Yet when I've asked if that could be done, I was told no. So I'm just wondering if there's a way we can incorporate the feedback from residents to improve the communication response.
I will take that on. Yep. I will, yep.
Thank you. Greg and then Mihi.
Thanks, all. Do you see the list of questions that I sent through?
I did.
Fantastic. And with regards to those, will you be updating through your normal updates a lot of those answers when they come available?
Did we update those this morning? Are those the ones that I saw this morning, Cindy? There.
So they've all been responded to.
There's,
So you're asking
there's a
them-
bunch that are to be defined as their progress. It's
Yeah.
more a case of knowing when there is something to be defined, will that be shared at a later point, when information becomes available?
So is that sorry, I'm not being picky here, I'm just.
No, you have me.
So is that around the rebuild or is that around the stuff that I'm doing? I guess.
From the rebuild.
It's around the rebuild parts of it.
Yeah.
Because a lot of questions we get is around what's happening now.
Okay.
So just having that information shared more widely would be appreciated.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I talked about. I think being at the project team, I can prompt them along to make sure we get some more regular updates on where they're at and what progress is. Get some photos, get some more drone footage, some more regular drone footage if we can.
Yeah, I think for me, it's an initial thing of literally when's it going to go in the water? It's the new era it is, and that's the big timeline. People want to see something that's physically happening. We've taken 8 weeks to get to this point, so obviously every week after that we're counting on it. And we want to make sure our residents are getting looked after in that sense that action's happening and it can be conveyed quickly rather than just having to drive past and see it.
Absolutely, take it on board. Yep.
Right, me?
Thanks, Gary. I know that in the last time you presented, we talked quite a bit about the community wellbeing response, and then in your response to Greg was about the health responses for residents.
Yep.
Are they kind of two and two together, or is there separate initiatives for those for resident wellbeing response?
Do you put your question one more time?
Just, I think we were talking about more so like people's mental health wellbeing,
Yep,
and I'm reading it as that the health is more about the levels that they're exposed to.
Oh,
How does,
no,
are these going to be two separate?
no,
things or one together?
they all wrapped. They're all wrapped together, and so that was one of the things we talked about was that someone who's feeling unwell physically and mentally, their GP at the moment is the portal to the help that's available, or Healthline. But those are things I will follow up. But it's definitely seen as a wraparound rather than two separate things.
And then my last question is just around the communication. So the newsletter that we received for the wastewater treatment plant, do people have to actively subscribe to that? So is there a comparison of residents like that are subscribed to that compared to the number of people that like actually live in those affected areas?
So the only way to do it any other way would be mail drop twice a week, and that's a little bit unrealistic, to be honest. I do some mail drops for those that don't have computers that I've found out about. But no, you sign up to it, and then you get the newsletter. Yeah.
Just sorry, add on to that is probably just what's the most common form of communication that you get from resident inquiries? Is that through like forwarded emails from council, or is that
probably comes through the call centre, or they have. It's quite quiet at the moment. Obviously, we haven't had much smell, and it's been great, and long may that last. But yeah, normally through there. I've had a few from the community centre where people have come in and asked questions and passed them on, and I've gone back to them. Yep.
Thank you. Thank you, Gary. One more question?
Yeah, just sorry.
Sure.
I mean, first of all, I do want to thank you for the work that you're doing, Gary. I think it's really good that we've got one point of contact for people, face, a name, and a number, and
An old place.
Yeah, so thank you. I really, really do appreciate that. I was just wondering if there'd been any update from the Ministry of Education and what sort of feedback we've had from the schools.
So the Ministry of Education, and I haven't got to the right person, but the people before that have said they've had very little contact from schools and there are no concerns raised with them that's required them to do anything at this point.
But will we reach out to, I don't know when the next principal's breakfast is, but
we haven't got one scheduled, but it's on our list to do.
Do you think it'd be worth us approaching the schools directly?
And asking if they've got any problems.
And just saying.
From my viewpoint, I'd rather not. However, that would be your call as a board. that's what you want to do. And then I can do that if that's what you want me to do.
Or maybe it's just a case of us scheduling our principals meeting and then we've got that.
Yeah, and we, the same, when we had the last wastewater meetings, and any of those bigger updates with the last big event, we were sharing it directly with the schools, making sure that they were aware of, what was, well, obviously they were aware of the smell, but the things that were happening around it as well. So we were actively sharing that information with schools at the time.
I mean, I think maybe reaching out to Bromley School is probably warranted, just given the proximity.
Yeah, I do need to get across to this guy actually. Yeah, I'll do that.
Excellent. Well, thanks very much. Yeah, and a second, Yanni's sentiments around it. Thank you very much for your work.
Thank you.
No.
You're again.
Yeah.
Resolution.